The Seattle Mariners have made a massive trade, and Randy Arozarena is one of the first big dominoes to fall ahead of this year's trade deadline. The Mariners acquired him, and considering his track record and how many years of control he has left before he hits free agency, they didn't have to give up that much. So we'll break down this massive trade and what it means for the rest of the landscape on this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. What's up, everybody? Welcome into 3 Up, 3 Down. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and today we have a massive trade to break down between the Seattle Mariners and the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, we weren't all sure what direction that the Rays would be headed in because they are hovering around that 500 mark. They're not too far out of the playoff race, just 3.5 games back, but they have some expiring deals and they have some attractive assets that could get them a big haul of prospects in return, and one of those names was Randy Arozarena. Another name is Zach Eflin, who has been brought up multiple times, and Pete Fairbanks. They have some expiring deals, and maybe they're not trying to make the playoffs this year, and they're trying to restock their farm system and make their team a little bit younger and position themselves a little bit better for the future, considering the landscape of the American League East. But let's jump straight into the trade. Before we do that, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and give us your thoughts on the return for the Tampa Bay Rays. But I think this is great for the Mariners. And let's just get straight into it here. This is the full trade announced by Jeff Passan. Seattle Mariners receive outfielder Randy Arozarena, and the Tampa Bay Rays receive outfielder Aiden Smith and right-hander Brody Hopkins, and a player to be named later. So this return, you might be wondering, it's not Harry Ford. It's not one of the top prospects of the Mariners going the other way. It's actually their number 12 and their number 20 prospects heading the other way. So not a massive return, and this is extremely surprising considering that Randy still has another 3 years left of control before he hits free agency. He's going to be a free agent in 2027. He's only got 3 years of service time, and he's one of the more, I'd say, accomplished outfielders in terms of playoff success, and he was one of the bigger names on the market as well. He is having a bit of a down season this year, but let's just take a look at his stats. I mean, a 787 career OPS, a 123 OPS plus for his career. He's still going to hit 20 home runs and steal 20 bases this season. He's a consistent 20-20 guy. He's not going to slug 40, 50 homers for you, but you know exactly what you're getting out of Randy. And his playoff numbers just jump to a whole other stratosphere once he starts playing in October. He senses the big moments, and he loves the big moments. So I think this is a great trade for the Seattle Mariners, considering that Julio Rodriguez, their star player, is on the 10-day injured list, and he should be back in early August, but they are now second place in the AL West after having a sizable advantage on the Houston Astros and seemingly going to cakewalk their way to the title. It's not looking that way right now. They still might sneak into a wild card spot, but I think the Astros are going to win the division yet again. They're one of the most consistent organizations in baseball, and it's honestly ridiculous at this point. We thought they were done heading into the year, and the way that they started kind of reaffirmed that, but they're back and they're making some noise yet again. So it's going to be tough for the Seattle Mariners to win that division, especially with the way that their offense has performed. It hasn't been great. Julio Rodriguez is way below his career numbers and really not playing well. And then they just released Ty France, who was an all-star a couple of years ago. So things aren't going great for their offense, but their pitching staff is their calling card. And having a playoff performer added to this lineup, having a guy who is so electric and going to be there for another few years as well, I think this is a fantastic move by Jerry Dipoto and the Mariners front office. They had to make something happen, and I think this was the best they could have possibly done. There were some rumors about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. maybe headed that way, especially with Ty France on waivers. There's a hole now at first base, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. Or maybe they saved some top prospects to go out and acquire Vladdy. I don't know. But this is This is going to be really interesting to follow as the weeks go along here. I'm wondering where Randy is going to fit into this lineup, probably as their cleanup hitter, I would imagine. And even though he's having a down season in Tampa Bay, he's showtime, he's really good, and he's got all the tools to be a fantastic player in that lineup. So just another smart and savvy move by the Mariners, and they had to do something. Their offense is one of the worst in baseball. It's not even funny at this point, and this was the move that they had to make. But what does this mean for the rest of the market? I'm wondering if you can get 3 years of Randy Arozarena for your 12th and 20th ranked prospects. How does that affect the market for a player like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. if the Jays were deciding to trade him? How does that affect the market for, let's say, fringe player like Paul DeJong, who is having a really good season, who could help out a contender with his power at shortstop? Can you get him for a bag of peanuts now, considering that Randy was just dealt for nothing? And Isaac Paredes as well. You got to imagine that the Tampa Bay Rays are going to try and turn around and trade him as well, because he's a name that has been brought up several times in trade talks. He's having a much better season than Randy. He's got more power than Randy and can play multiple positions. So where does he fit as well in this market? Is he going to require a big haul in order to acquire him? I think so. So there's a lot of interesting names to follow, and Randy was the first domino to fall. I feel like the Tampa Bay Rays could have done much better than a 12 and a 20th ranked prospect in the Mariners system. But hey, I digress. I think this is a great move for the Mariners, and who knows if we fast forward in 2-3 years time and you have Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins absolutely tearing it up and making a debut for the Rays, then it's a successful trade for both teams. And I'm pretty sure Randy's going to fit in nicely to this Mariners lineup. He's really what they needed. They needed some power and someone to inject some life into that lineup that has been pretty lifeless for the majority of the season. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. Thank you guys so much for making it this far. And again, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and give me your thoughts on this trade. And what trade do you think is going to be the next domino to fall? That's what I'm interested in. I think this deadline is going to be insane. It's going to be a lot of movement in and out. The Miami Marlins also traded AJ Puck to the Arizona Diamondbacks, so they're making some moves as well. There's going to be a ton of movement on the trade front, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I'll have you covered on everything that you need to know around Major League Baseball. But check out baseballtown.ca as well for everything that you need in terms of baseball equipment, softball equipment. They got you covered. The best quality equipment at the most competitive prices. So check them out. And until next week, enjoy the baseball, folks.